can't see Ezra.
Today we're going to walk around the farm where I grew up.
Look up.
And I'm going to tell stories. That's my two youngest daughters back there. Yeah, acting a fool. And here's my youngest grandson. Say hi, Ezra.
Hi.
Hi. We're going to walk around. We're going to tell stories from when Grandpa was little. Come on, get over here.
I guess your head gets.
All right, this is, as you guys already know, this is the road that went between where I grew up and where your grandma and grandpa live now. We used to ride our bikes up and down this road all the time. Hey, get over here.
You're so dumb.
Over here.
Let's go across.
There were, here in the pasture, there were no trees in this pasture when I was a kid, except for one clear down at the other end by the creek. Well, there was the grove of trees over there on the other side of the fence, but none of these trees were here. It was completely empty. Over here, where the side of the road gets a little bit steeper, I'll tell you, one time your Uncle Bill and I were, I don't remember where Joe was at. He might have been with us. But we were riding our bikes from Grandma's. And there was a badger digging a hole in the side of the hill over here. And our dumb asses, you know what we did?
We poked at it.
No, sort of. We decided to stop our bikes and throw rocks at it.
Yeah.
And this thing got turned around and growled at us and came after us. We had to hurry up and take off on our bikes. Because you don't mess with a badger.
See, I would have done the same thing.
You see that? Up, you got him?
No, kill it.
That's what we used to call an army worm when I was a kid.
Kill it. Step on it, Ezra.
All right, you girls see the other fence over there?
Yeah.
That was the split between where Grandpa grew up, or where I grew up, and your great-grandpa's place where your grandparents live now. Right here, right over here on the other side, the north side of the fence here, one time we had a big thunderstorm, and the cattle had their head between the wires eating grass in the ditch here, and it got struck by lightning and electrocuted 3 or 4 of them.
What the heck?
And they were laying out here in the pasture with their feet sticking up.
Oh my god, like getting a duck to bite now.
Yeah. What you got?
Got a bud rock.
Yeah, you got you a big rock. That's a rubber band off of an old tossback. It was a thing that you had a net, and you would throw a ball at it, and it'd throw the ball back to you. Your grandpa used to work at a place. Well, I worked there for right before I joined the Army. A place called Tossback, and they made sports equipment. That's a garter snake. You know what Grandpa says about snakes?
Yeah.
What does Grandpa say about snakes?
A good one is a dead one.
Yeah.
Stay back.
That's what Daddy says.
Just stepped on
The only good snake is a dead one. There.
I just found a snake. Jeremy's all the way over there.
That's a good snake. Good and dead.
I wish
Hey, all right, you see the spot here where the ruts in the road are at?
Yeah.
The reason it's like this is because the water comes across the road. When I was a kid, right up here, there was a culvert that ran underneath the road, and on this side there was a great big hole here on this west side of the road. And this hole over here always had water in it. Yeah, there's still parts of it left. One time we put a giant snapping turtle in this hole. Yeah, see, the culvert's long gone. Everything got filled up with crap.
Hey, so you found a snake. No.
When I was little too, right along here, this creek always had water in it when I was a kid. Back in the 70s, we got a lot more rain, and there was always water in here. Along the top there by the fence, see girls, over here by the fence, there used to be sand plum bushes. And the funny thing was, we had this old St. Bernard. We called her name was Raggedy Ann Elizabeth Amber. But your Uncle Joe couldn't pronounce all that when he was little, so we just called her Rags. She would go in the sand plum bushes over here so much and lay down in the shade. She'd go in the creek and get cooled off. And then she'd sit in the shade in the sand plum bushes. There used to be a tunnel through those sand plum bushes that you could crawl in. And your Uncle Bill and I used to crawl up inside there and hide. Now there's still some water in here. You know, the funny thing is these cottonwood trees, I don't remember them being there when I was a kid. Yeah, that's the culvert underneath the driveway. So here's the driveway from where I grew up.
Oh, me and Isaac, no, me and Reagan went up there.
Me and your Uncle Bill, we would sometimes crawl through the culvert, but we were always scared, a bit scared to do so. Right here where this post is at, here, I'll tell you a little thing happened here. One time, let's see, it was right after I turned 5 years old. Right here used to be the mailbox. Ezra, come here. Where Ezra's standing was the mailbox. I came down here with your Uncle Bill, and he was swinging this stick. And I turned around, and the next thing you know, all I did was just black out. I was blinded, and blood was pouring into my face, and down into my mouth. He had hit me with that stick right here. That's why Daddy has that scar. I have that scar right there.
Yeah.
That's because. And I remember I walked up the driveway. Your Uncle Bill went screaming up the driveway, bawling. I walked up the driveway, couldn't even see, with blood pouring into my mouth, and went into the house and everything. And your grandma asked what was wrong, and I quit. I didn't. Your Uncle Bill and I would never tattle on each other ever. And I told your grandma that I went to check the mail, and I know this happened on a Sunday. And the reason why I know it happened on a Sunday is because your grandma was like, there's no mail on Sunday. And I was like, well, I didn't know what day it was. But I told her the lid of the mailbox came down and hit me right here. And it was so believable that your great-grandpa Alfred came here the next day with a pair of pliers and took the handle of the mailbox and curled it around so it didn't have a sharp edge on it. And that mailbox was like that. The entire time I was growing up, that mailbox was like that because your great-grandpa had quote-unquote fixed it. When Daddy was real young, it was just your Uncle Bill and I. Joe was either Joe hadn't been born yet or he was just too little, but your Uncle Bill and I, there used to be bushes on the other side of the creek, and behind that there was more woods, different kinds of trees. Most of it was cottonwood, but there were these tall weeds that used to grow in there all the time. And your Uncle Bill and I would take sticks and we would chop paths, spend all day long chopping paths through those weeds. And then over here a little bit further where these dead cottonwoods are at, let's walk over here. There were 2 dead cottonwood trees. One of them fell down into the, it was like shaped like a Y, like a slingshot.
Like ours?
And the one tree fell down into that notch between the others, and it was balanced perfectly. So the tree was like 15 feet off the ground, and it was perfectly balanced in there. So your Uncle Bill and Joe, we tried to make a fort up there. That is, until I fell off. I fell off, and I, real quick thinking, I decided I was going to push myself off and land in this bush, because otherwise I would have gotten hurt. But when I was a kid, along this creek, there were these bushes and trees, and this creek always had water, because right over here where this stone post is at, actually it'd be close to where the stone post is at, maybe a little further. The water used to actually leak right outside on the side of the road here. If you come down here, watch out, right here is a stone post. Yeah, there's actually water in the creek now. When I was a kid, there wasn't all this grass and there weren't any cattails, but the water there was a spring that would run right from the outside of the road over here. It might turn into a butterfly. I really don't know. That's something you don't need.
Okay, that's okay.
Here, you see this telephone pole? When I was a kid, these were the lines for the telephone, and this is the only one left. These little poles used to run all the way up to the corner. I guess there's still another one up there. And then sometime in the it might have been the early 80s, they came out here and put underground telephone lines over here. This was Jake and Minnie Herbal's property over here on the other side. But one time, your Uncle Bill and I came over here to climb trees. And I climbed, I think it was a cottonwood tree again. And I don't know, I was like 20, 30 feet up. Started to climb down, and I slipped and fell and landed right on my back and knocked the wind out of me. Right, and this root was sticking up, and it got me right in the spine. See, here's the other side of that culvert. Yeah, your Uncle Bill and I used to play down here a lot when we were little. Always playing in the creek. Put the stick down, Ezra. It sure has changed. Everything looks so small now compared to what it did when I was little.
Well, you were so small, so everything was big.
Nobody's lived up here for, my God, what is it? 35 years?
I thought it would be like 60.
No, it's 35 to 40 years since anybody's lived up here. What? Yeah, come on, Ezra. Even this old elm tree finally died. Oh my God. You see all this old farm equipment here? Your grandpa used to collect this stuff. And in 1976, for the bicentennial celebration for our country, your grandpa had taken a lot of this stuff and rebuilt it and painted it. And when they had a parade in town, your grandpa and your great-grandpa pulled a lot of this in the parade, because the bicentennial in 76 was a big deal. Every little town had a celebration, and we went to every one of them. It was great. It was absolutely great. And we used to play, hey, I can't believe it's still here. Come here. You see that little piece of fence there?
No. Yeah.
Right there?
Yeah.
That used to be our backstop when we played baseball out here with the Herbert twins. It wasn't very tall. It seemed like it was a lot taller when we were kids. But we used to put old tires out here for bases. The problem is every time we'd hit the ball real far, it'd go into the creek and we'd never find it. I don't know how many baseballs the Herbert twins and us lost trying to play baseball out here, because you were hitting from uphill to downhill. And of course, there was only 4 of us. If Joe played, there was 5 of us. So you really couldn't play baseball that way. None of the paint's left on any of these pieces of equipment anymore. One time, oh, somebody, Grandpa must have come up here and mowed. One time, your Uncle Bill and I decided we wanted to make paths to ride our bikes on. So we took a shovel and scraped off the grass here from over there at the corner to through here and then down back on the main road. We cut a path to ride our bikes on. If you kids did something like that to my lawn, I'd kick the shit out of you. But your grandpa never said a word. I to this day, I can't believe he didn't say nothing about it. But we tried to do everything we could to not be bored. See, this like right here, when your Uncle Bill and I got our first bikes, we couldn't get on them and take off. So what we would do is we would ride up to these steps here, put one foot on the step, get on our bikes, and then take off. My God, it's so small. It looks so small.
This is where me and
And this is where Daddy grew up, and it's all gone now.
got it both down. Yeah, it's
We
all
had
broken.
such good times. Your Uncle Bill and I used to play this game with a volleyball. Really, it was any kind of ball we could come up with.
Why is that a food tree?
Where we used to hit the ball up on the roof and let it roll down. It was like playing volleyball, but you only had one side.
I see you.
Oh my God! Look how big that black walnut tree that's in the yard there was just a stick when I was a kid. This one was just a stick. Everything looks so small.
Once again, because you were small.
Yeah.
Why is this new tree here?
That's probably something your grandpa or your Aunt Laura planted. You know, the saddest thing of all of this is the old barn, the old barn falling down over here. You see this big cottonwood here?
Yeah.
There used to be a doghouse there for the St. Bernard that we had. Sometimes your Uncle Bill and I would come down or we'd hide in it from each other. Right here, well, there weren't all these bushes. This was all cleared out because when I was a kid, we used to cut wood right here. But one time there's a big hill over here on the other side. One time your Uncle Bill, we had made spears with an old broom handle. We'd put a great big nail on there and then ground the nail off for a spear. One time I shot your Uncle Bill with my slingshot with a walnut and got him in the back, and he threw that damn spear at me.
Oh my God.
And it got me right here. You see that scar I got on my eye? That's from your Uncle Bill too.
He's just slow.
He threw that damn spear at me.
Anger issues. Oh my God.
And once again, I wouldn't narc on him. I told your grandma that I fell down and a stick that was on the ground poked me in the eye. Yeah, your Uncle Bill.
That's like me and Jerry. That's something
You see these trees right here in the middle? The driveway always went around. It was just all sand. These trees weren't here either. But you know one thing your Uncle Bill and I did? One time we got these play golf sets. It was one spring. So we come out here and we dug holes in the driveway.
Oh my God.
Just these little holes, and we were trying to play golf here around this driveway. Oh my God, that looks like your grandpa has taken some of this old tractor apart. This old tractor here, when your grandpa, actually this may not be the one, but he had, hey, get over here. Your grandpa had, if it wasn't this one, it was another one just like it. But when I was real little, long before your Uncle Joe was born, Aunt Journey. Every time your grandpa would start that tractor, your great-grandma's dog, great-grandma Zelda, her dog down there, you know, a quarter of a mile away would start howling.
Oh my God.
And just absolutely flip out. And your grandma, your great-grandma used to get mad because your grandpa had started this old tractor. There was another time, and I know it was this one, because I was in high school. Your grandpa got his big John Deere stuck in the field over there at the other place, and it was buried. And we took the old farm-all tractor, like the one that's over here where the barn's falling down, and we couldn't get that big John Deere out. So your grandpa takes this old thing. This is like a 1920s John Deere. I think it was a Model D. And that tractor yanked his big John Deere out of the mud.
What the heck?
I couldn't believe it. To this day, I still don't believe it. These were so much fun. One time your Uncle Bill and Joe, we were having to pick up bales, and so we actually used this old tractor. And I was only 13, 14 years old. Actually, no, I was 14 years old, because it was when your grandpa broke his back. It was the summer after your grandpa broke his back. We had to get it started. Being as scrawny as I was and everything, we could still turn that flywheel. You know, the saddest thing about here is this barn falling down. This was a great big 2-story barn. It was a roll top. I'll have to see if I can find a picture of one of these. The roof, the shingles on the roof were bad, and your grandpa could never find anybody who was brave enough to go up there on that curved roof and fix the shingles. So eventually it just got worse and worse, and it was like 5-6 years ago it finally fell down. But your Uncle Bill and I, and Joe too later, we used to have so much fun in that barn. We put a basketball goal up there. We would chase each other around, and there were these trap doors on the second floor, and we used to put hay bales in there too, so your Uncle Bill and I could run, get to a trap door, and just fall. Just, you know, it was, I don't know, it was kind of like the old Pitfall game for the Atari. You could just drop down because those hay bales were there to catch us. You know, it was only like 10 feet that we were falling, but it used to be so much fun. You just run, step where that trap door was at, and just fall straight down. And over here on the north side of the barn, we used to jump out the window on the ground, and it was like 12 feet. And we would roll. Man, if I tried to do that today, I'd break my spine. But that's what we used to do. Stupid shit. Run, jump out the big window, and roll on the ground and then take off. Oh, and you see the shed over here?
Yeah.
I don't remember the building that used to be here, but your great-grandpa and your grandpa tore it down, and then there was a slab of concrete was poured in. When that winter, that slab of concrete had been poured, had been poured previously. But your Uncle Bill and I used to ride our tricycles. That's how little I was. I was riding a tricycle. I might have been 3 years old, and your Uncle Bill would have been maybe 2 years old. Because, well, if I was 3, then he would have been 2. And then you see this other building over here?
Yeah.
That one there?
Yeah.
That was the old chicken coop. When I was real little, we used to actually, it's not really a chicken coop, it was a brooder house. We would have baby chicks in there. And then we turned it into our playhouse years later. By the time I was in elementary school, it was our fort. We used to have so much fun. We used to actually try to plant a garden in there, because you see those poles that's there?
Yeah.
There used to be a fence around it too. None of these trees were here. This hackberry tree and this that's a walnut tree. It wasn't there. So there's almost nothing left to it. One time though, your grandpa hit a crow coming home with his old blue pickup, his Chevy pickup, and it was still alive. So he brought it home. We put the thing in here because it couldn't fly. And we kept it for I don't know how long, and I distinctly recall it saying a few words. We had it so long. Now my memory could be flawed, a bit. But
Yeah.
that's what I remember. And you see this little thing right here, what's left of it? Your grandpa built this. It had, there was a frog or something jumping over there. It had, I think that your grandpa said that was a gear or a transmission and gear shift from Model A, Ford Model A. And then he had this big 20 horsepower engine that sat on the front of it. And when your when I was real little, before your Uncle Joe was born, when your grandpa first built that, oh my God, would this thing go fast. He used to go around the driveway in the circles here, just tearing up the driveway, and your grandma would be bitching, he's going to get himself hurt. But he went and did something to it to where it would never go that fast again. So when we got older and we were messing around with it, it wouldn't go very fast. But we drove this to the Herbers one time, then the damn engine belt broke. Oh, good days. Over here, between the barn and this, there was another shed over here, and it was just where the cattle would stay in the winter time to get out of the wind and stuff. But your grandpa used to have a garden over here. You have to come around over here. We had the chicken coop over here, but it's all overgrown now. But your grandpa, oh my God, he used to be able to grow stuff. He went and got some dirt from the pond down in the pasture and used it and made one hell of a garden. See, this is all overgrown now. See some more holly bushes. Those are just as puff. They're supposed to be edible, but I ain't eating one to find out. Your uncle Jesse might. See, the corral is gone. Here, I'll tell you a story about the corral. Actually, there's two big memories about right through here. There used to be a corral where you would load the cattle up on the truck. It had a ramp that went up, and then you had the fenced in part. Well, your Uncle Bill and I, in our infinite wisdom, I still remember doing it too. I remember it plain as day. And this was before Joe was born. We were really little. So I probably was, Jesus, maybe 4 years old. I wasn't in school yet. But we got a hold of your grandpa's handsaw. And we were always fascinated by this thing. It was this silver bowed one, kind of like the one of them that I have in the garage. And we decided to cut some boards out of the corral. When your grandpa found out, oh my God, he was pissed. He went out in the yard and cut a switch from a holly bush that was in the yard and whooped us with it. One of only 2 times he ever whooped us. The first time your grandpa ever whooped us good is they left us at home. I cannot believe this because that is how things were in those days. Things were different. But
put it down.
What it was is we were really young. I don't think we had started school yet. But your grandma and grandpa decided to leave us at home. And I don't know how long they were gone. But once again, your Uncle Bill and I decided to do something stupid. Well, for some reason, we like the smell of matches. So we got in the cabinet, got the box of matches out, and we were just striking matches and blowing them out. Well, your grandma and grandpa couldn't have been gone for very long because when they came home, they could smell them. And I'll never forget it, the old house up here. On the south side, there was the area where the washer and dryer was at. There was a doorway there that came into the living room. Your grandma and grandpa made your Uncle Bill and I stand in that doorway, and they were saying, all right, who was playing with matches? And of course, we both denied it. I mean, I'm not quite sure how we thought we could deny it because we were the only ones there. Well, your grandpa went out and got a switch and he whooped us as well for that. That was the only 2 times your grandpa ever whooped my ass. And 2 times, well, one of them we really needed it. There was once in the old house up here where you guys know I don't like milk.
Yeah.
How much I despise it. Well, when I was Ezra's age, I didn't like milk then either. Well, one time at dinner we had milk and I didn't drink it, and your grandpa told me I was going to sit there until I drank that milk. Well, I spent the night sitting in that kitchen chair. I'd be damned if I was going to drink that milk. Your grandpa gets up to go to work the next morning and sees me still sitting there and the milk was still in the glass. And he's like, just go to bed. Go to your room and go to bed. And that's all he said. That's all he said. But I told you I hated milk. I mean, I told you guys, remember I told you the last time I drank milk? I can tell you at least the month and the year. I can't tell you the day, but the month and the year. It was November 1989 was the last time I willingly drank milk in basic training, because that looks like kind of like a small kissing bug, so you need to kill it.
Now you flew it.
But hey, it's going back to the corral that was over here. Here's something else your Uncle Bill and I used to do. Yeah, I'm telling stories about your Uncle Bill. Your grandpa had this little shovel with a red handle, and we were fascinated by this little shovel because it was small enough for us to use, and so we were always digging holes. One time out here in the wheat field that's over here, well, just growing Milo now. But your Uncle Bill and I, at the top of the hill, we could walk up there real quick. At the top of the hill, in the wheat field, it's mostly sand. We decided we were going to dig holes and tunnels. And yeah, it wasn't until I got older that I realized why your grandpa was so angry about it. Not only did we leave these gigantic holes up here in the field, but it was sand. They could have collapsed and buried us, and nobody would have ever found us. I do not the stupid shit your Uncle Bill and I used to do, and then later on with Joe. There had to be somebody looking out for us because of the stupid shit that we did. But anyway, your grandpa came home and found those holes, and he was livid. A few days later, and this was in the fall time because the wheat had already been planted, and we actually dug up some of the wheat that was coming up. But, or no, I take that back. It had to be early to late spring because the calves were being born. We had a mother calf, or mother cow, over here in the corral, and the calf inside of her was turned around. It wasn't coming out head first. So your great-grandpa and your grandpa had to do what they call pulling the calf. They had to stick their hands up inside there and put a chain on the hooves, on the legs of that calf, and pull that calf out. Well, the calf died anyway, and then the mother cow died too because she had spent so long trying to give birth to that calf that I don't know if it exhausted her or she bled to death. I don't know. Well, anyway, your grandpa has always loved animals, especially the cattle and everything. He was so angry, and this was only a few days after we had dug those holes up here on the hill. So you know what your grandpa did to teach me and your Uncle Bill a lesson?
Make you bury him in the woods.
That's right. He came into this corral where the corral was at, and he took that little shovel, that little red-handled shovel, and he marked off an area. And he told us he wanted it at least 6 feet deep by the time he came home from work. Your Uncle Bill and I went out here early in the morning after your grandpa went to work and started digging.
You never made it, did you?
Oh Christ, no! The ground was so hard, and there was a big cottonwood tree in there, which has fallen down now, so its roots were in the way. My hands were so blistered and bloody by that afternoon. He knew, your grandpa knew, there was no way we could dig that hole there big enough and deep enough to bury that cow. It was to teach us a lesson, and one that we didn't necessarily learn too well, because your Uncle Bill and I were always digging holes here in the pasture too. But your grandma tried to help us too. When your grandpa came home from work, of course we didn't have the hole deep enough. I really don't know if he went and got the tractor and finished digging the hole. I really don't know. I just know my hands were all blistered up and bloody from trying to dig the hole. That was our punishment for digging holes in the pasture, or in the wheat field. But like I said, your Uncle Bill and I were thick-headed or something, because we used to like to go over here in the pasture and dig holes, because the water table is so high here that you'd only have to dig down like 6 inches and the water would start bubbling up. So we used to dig holes in the pasture just to watch the water come up.
Like 6 or 7 inches.
The problem was our dumbasses wouldn't fill the holes in when we were done. And your grandpa would be out in the pasture and he'd find the holes that we dug. And then he'd get mad at us, and we're too little and young to understand. But the cow would step in one of those and break its leg. But we didn't understand. But it used to be so much fun digging holes to watch the water bubble up. Don't ask me why it was so much fun, but it was. See, and none of this was here. This was all mowed off. Let's see, all your grandpa's black walnut, only one of those black walnut trees is still alive. Hey, come over here. Hey, you can still see part of the old chicken coop over here. See, none of these holly bushes were here. This walnut tree wasn't here. Now the cottonwood tree was here. I can't believe the old chicken coop is still here. We used to have a lot of chickens, but your grandpa always somehow managed to find some dog that was just brain dead that couldn't keep from killing them. So he finally gave up. But you know, your Uncle Bill, here's another thing. Your grandma used to tell us every morning, here, get over here. Okay. Your grandma used to tell us every morning to come down and get the eggs. Well, your Uncle Bill again. He would come in, he'd come bawling up back to the house. The chickens were biting him because, yeah, they would peck you. When you tried to take their eggs, they would peck you. It hurt a little bit when you're little, but it was sure as hell wasn't nothing to freak out about. But if you go past this, straight past the shed there, scoot over. There was a fenced in area over there where your Uncle Bill and I had a garden. It was an old garden, old garden. The soil wasn't very good, and your Uncle Bill and I were never patient enough. We would plant something and we couldn't wait till it was, you know, like we'd plant some onions. We could never wait till the onions actually got big enough to pick. We were always checking to see how big they were, which inadvertently killed them then. And it was too hard to get water to them. But every year we would try to plant a garden. I wish we could go over here, right here. You see this elm tree here? Right there by that tree one time, your Uncle Bill, a grasshopper jumped on him. And he started freaking out because he said it bit him. Yeah, it was kind of funny. But over in here, on the other side of this shed over here is where your grandpa had that garden. I really wish we could get in there. See, when we had cattle in the pasture over here, the cattle follow behind each other, one right behind the other, so they always create a trail in the ground. And there were cattle trails all through the pasture. So that's how your Uncle Bill and I would navigate through the pasture over here. You see this well here? Back in, I believe it was before I started high school, so it had to be before '84. A friend of your grandpa's named Bob Casper came out, and your grandpa had made this little thing. We had a big tripod here with some old telephone poles, and your grandpa had made this, I guess you could call it like a plunger type thing. And we hand dug a well here. And it seems to me like your grandpa said it was like 9 feet down, and it had 20 feet of water in here. Some of the best water you will ever have. Your grandpa used to have the engine off of that little mini tractor thing that he built. Used to be up here. But we used to come up here all the time and start the pump up and just spray each other. The water was freezing cold. Over here, remember when I told you the shed? About the shed being the old shed? I don't remember it being there, but your great grandpa and your grandpa had taken it down. Well, they threw all the parts, the boards and everything, to that building over here. Used to be these sand pits over here. See, and it's they're all gone now. They're all filled in. But your Uncle Bill and I used to come out here and play in these sand pits, and there was always what do you call it? Lizards. And we'd always be trying to catch these green lizards.
Yeah.
But the sand pits are all gone now.
You need to put that in? It looks like
You know, I don't talk about it much, but your grandma's parents, your great grandpa Thacker, used to have these old cars out here. And there used to be this old, Christ, it had to be 1930s. Hey, look at this beetle. I haven't seen one of those since I was a kid.
Kill it, Ezra. Again.
There, Grandpa got it.
No, you didn't.
There used to be this old truck sitting over here. Up at the old house, close to the old shed where your grandpa had his Model T, there was a tire that we used to use it as a sand pit to play in. And your Uncle Bill would find, and I would find box turtles. And we'd always have a box turtle living in there. But they would dig their way out. If we go back up to the old house, maybe that tire is still there.
Yeah, I know my grandma said it's sand pit tire. I was playing it and it gets that part.
Well, this, what I'm talking about, is long before that. You know, it's only when you get older that you can appreciate your childhood. And if I could go back in time and relive all those days, I certainly would. Even though your Uncle Bill and I would get bored out here, it was still a great life. Oh, I can't believe that old building's coming down now. Over here, this old building is where your grandpa had his old Model T. Somebody came in and stole a bunch of his parts, so he moved it down to the where your great-grandparents lived. It's hard to believe this building is still standing. There's an old wagon wheel lamp that your grandpa had made. There's an old belt. See, here's an old This is an old jack and jack handle. It's an old grinding disc. Here's some old head gaskets, probably for a Model T, because that's what your grandpa had in here.
Little hornet nest.
Oh, those are mud dauber nests. You really have to mess with them for them to sting you. Ever Normal Granary, sealed under the authority of the Agricultural Adjustment Act of 1938 as amended. Wait, Ezra. The United States Department of Agriculture certifies that this storage structure for grain has been officially inspected and is hereby sealed pursuant to the provisions of the Agricultural Adjustment Act of 1938 as amended. Any person tampering with this seal as affixed by the official inspector, and most of the rest of it you can't read. I wish there was a year on this. And this is an old backboard. This is an old drill press. Your Uncle Bill and I used to come in here and hand crank this thing just for the hell of it. And it's all froze up now. Let's see if we can find if that old tire's here. The old outhouse is still here. You know, when I was a kid, an outhouse was a pretty common thing for people who lived in the country. Because when I was real little in the early 70s, here, for example, Ezra, now, don't go in there. You see this light pole here?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, the snow used to be so bad, a snowdrift would form from that telephone pole all the way down where that old beat up white truck was at. And it was so tall that we could dig a tunnel through it for the school bus to get through.
Right.
And sometimes the snow here on this side of the house would pile up to the north side of the old house here to where you could damn near walk up on the roof. The snow would drift so bad. Oh, I can't believe this tree is still here. You guys see this scar on my thumb?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
I got that scar from cutting myself on this tree in probably 73, 74. It was long before Joe was little. I still remember to this day. I got that little cut right there from this tree. I don't even remember what it was called. I think we called him a dogwood tree, but I don't know what it really was called. Over here, your grandpa to this day blames us, and I don't know whether it had anything to do with it or not, but there used to be a peach tree right here. Well, your Uncle Bill and I, in our infinite wisdom again, the peaches were green and we decided to pick them off the tree. Your grandpa was mad, and he always would say that no peaches ever, this tree never grew any peaches again after us doing that. There used to be a row of bushes right here and a little wire fence, and your grandpa used to grow asparagus over here. You see this pine tree? It would have been the late 70s, maybe, yeah, it had to be 1978 or 79. When I was in school, we used to do this thing called the Soil Conservation Poster Contest for the Conservation Department. Ezra, stop. And every year, every kid in school, all the way up to 8th grade, had to make a poster that had something to do with you know, it was the early Save the Planet nonsense. Well, one year, so it was either 78 or 79, your Uncle Bill won first or second place in the entire state. And he got some award, but part of his award was 2 pine trees. Your grandpa planted one here. I don't know where he planted the other one, but this one is still alive. And so that would make it almost 50 years ago now. Let's see, that would be what, 78? Yeah, it'd be 3 years shy of 50 years. It's absolutely amazing that tree survived. The other one didn't survive. Down here, this tree was in here. The cottonwood tree was here. We used to have a burn barrel down here. One time your Uncle Bill and I, we used to do stupid shit. We tried to make glass. So we started a fire in the burn barrel down here and was piling up some sand, trying to melt the sand to make glass. Oh, hey girls, you remember I told you about where I put your big sister's handprints in that concrete when I first bought that house that we live in? Well, right here, your grandpa had done the same with me and your Uncle Bill.
Oh, I see him.
There's one. Look how small. My hands were... I wish I had something to brush it off. I'm pretty sure your grandpa had put the year in. This wasn't the first place Daddy had lived. When we drove past that, we're on the road north of here. For the first year of my life, I actually lived in a different house. That's where I drank gasoline. Supposedly drank gasoline. Hey, one time. Oh, I remember putting that sticker on the window. When I was, oh my God, I can't believe that's still there. It used to be red and silver. When I was in elementary school, they used to have this fire prevention awareness thing. And they gave us those stickers one year. One time down in these trees here, it was before your Uncle Joe was born. Your grandpa cut down this great big cottonwood tree for some reason. And it was in the springtime when the tree was starting to first wake up. All this water came out of the tree and rushed down the hill. It was so much water came out of that tree. It was like a mini flood. God, this yard used to be seemed so much bigger. It was right here. Your grandma and grandpa were out here. I don't know if they were just sitting out here or what. But let's see, it was either Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi was out at the theater. We came out here and asked your grandpa if we could go see that movie. Remember that plain as day.
What he said, huh?
Well, now I remember exactly what he said. He said, well, we have to wait till payday when he got paid. Isn't that funny? So what year would have that been? If it was Empire Strikes Back, that was 82. If it was Return of the... Yeah, it had to be Empire Strikes Back because by the time Return of the Jedi came out, I was in high school. Oh, and you see this right here? Your grandma was always so mad. Your grandpa started this project for a bay window right here, and he never finished it. And your grandma used to complain about it all the time. You never finished. You see the little building there?
Yeah.
That was the pump house because we had a well. What is this hole? Some animal dug a hole down here. Come on, Ezra. But we used to have to go down there once in a while. So you see the water hydrant over there? If you ran the water too long, the well would go dry, and we'd have to wait for it to fill back up, and then we'd have to go down in there to prime the pump. Well, snakes liked it in there because it was cool and dark, and I hated going in there to prime that. We used to climb up this. This is part of an old windmill, but we just used it for the TV antenna. Hey, stop. Here's a story. Now you guys have heard me tell you this before, and this was before your Uncle Joe was born too. I was probably like 5 years old, maybe 6. Anyway, your grandma told your Uncle Bill to go down and get the mail.
Okay.
He comes bawling, running and screaming and bawling back to the house, and your grandma's asking what was wrong, and he said, "There's snakes everywhere." And your grandma's like, "What?" Your grandma comes out here, walks right here, and your Uncle Bill was not lying. There were snakes of every kind you can think of just covered the driveway. And they were all headed down south into the creek. So your grandma grabs this brick and she comes out here and she's dropping these bricks on the snakes out here trying to kill them.
Oh my God.
And your grandpa came home and he told her, he said, "That's just foolish. There's no way you were ever going to be able to kill all these snakes." Oh, you know what? We forgot to look, see if that tire for the sand pit was still there. I can't believe this elm tree is still alive either. It never really got any bigger. Your Uncle Bill and I used to play by this too. I really wish we could go down here into the creek. Your Uncle Bill and I used to have so much fun. The creek, there was a spring, the water, there was a swamp area over here where I'm pointing.
Yeah.
There was a spring there. Water would bubble up all the time, so it was always wet. So there was always water in this draw. There's a hill over here. Well,
Wait, hold on, I got you guys.
hold on. We covered a lot of when Daddy was little, but I don't think we did anything past 84. But most of the stuff was before that when it was just me and your Uncle Bill. We'll do another. I'll come out here sometime and make some other stories because there's so much to tell. Going down to the river, at where your grandparents live now, where your great-grandparents used to live. There's. Well, I'm 56, so there's 56 years worth of stories to tell. All right, say bye.
Peace out, Girl Scout.
Here, Ezra.
Ezra, get your hand again.
Let's actually add a little.
Part 2.
Nah, it's just a little, etc. A little postscript. Right here, girls. It was before I started high school. The county had come out here and mowed all the grass off, and it was really, really tall. It was this Johnson grass crap. Well, your Uncle Bill and I were building a fort or something. So I came down here to gather some of that stuff up. Well, the yellow jackets had made a nest in it, and I must have gotten stung 100 times. I was flinging my arms so bad I threw my glasses off my face. We had to come out here. I don't know how many hours we spent looking through the grass here to try and find my damn glasses.
Reminds me of My Girl. Did you find it?
Yeah, it kind of was like that scene in My Girl where she got stung to death.
He.
Or he?
It
Oh, it
was
was
so
him?
sad.
It was him?
It was so sad. Yeah.
Well, I had so many yellow jacket bites on me because they don't sting, they bite, they pinch you. It was terrible. Postscript number 2.
I see sugar.
Okay, you girls see over that tree out there in the pasture? Well, it was a lot smaller. One time, now this is kind of funny, it was some more stupid shit that your Uncle Bill and this time your Uncle Joe and I did. Remember how I told you a little bit ago how over here in the pasture there's a spring, there was a swamp area, so there was always water in the creek over here?
Yeah.
So what we did is, where those trees are at there in the pasture, we decided we were gonna dam the creek up.
The heck?
And then we dug it out. We dug a huge pit over there to where we could stand in it, and the water was like up halfway up our chest. And we decided we were gonna make a fish pond. Well, we got bored one summer and we decided to break the dam, and we flooded your great grandma's driveway down there.
Is that why there's always
where
water?
Grandma lives now? We go down there a few hours later, and your great grandma was mad. And she was, where did all that water come from? Because we flooded the whole driveway by doing that.
You guys are just dumb.
Look at what you guys always dig in.
Yeah, it's funny when you reminisce about the stupid shit you did. You start to realize just how much dumb shit you actually did.
The thing is, why
But
do
you know, your grandpa never said anything about it. You know, we used to, another thing we used to do when you saw the driveway, the circle driveway here where where Daddy grew up. We used to tie limbs to the back ends of our bikes and drag them around like we were plowing the field when we were little and stir up the dust. We'd ride down this road to where your great grandma lived and go around her circle driveway, and she'd come out of the house and she would have a fit telling us, you boys, stop stirring up the dirt. And it wasn't until about 25 years ago that I realized why your great grandma got so upset. She had lived through the Dust Bowl, and she probably was having PTSD flashbacks from the Dust Bowl days. Didn't keep us from dragging those limbs around though, because we'd leave, a few hours later we'd come back and do it all again.
Are you talking about limbs like trees?
Yeah, just tree branches.
I thought they were like bodies.
And we'd drag them behind our bikes and just stir up the dirt.
I'm stupid. I thought it was like bodies.
Yeah, your Uncle Bill and I used to have a lot of fun.
No, that's not fun.
That's like the walkie-talkies that you guys have.
Yeah, stop screwing around.
They can talk for 10, 15 miles. Your Uncle Bill and I had these ones that took like 10 batteries. It had like a 3-foot antenna on them, and we couldn't talk from the old house to where your grandma lives now. That's how bad the technology was in those days. You couldn't even talk a quarter of a mile on a walkie-talkie that had 12 batteries in it.
So dumb.
You kids, of course, know what a stone post is.
Yes, we're not that dumb.
Well, I'm not saying you are, but there's a story behind these stone posts too. Your great-great-grandfather used to go north of the town, 4 miles from here, where they had a quarry, and he would bring a wagon load of stone post home. And if you know how heavy the ones in the backyard are, right? Well, imagine doing that all day long. Mile after mile of stone posts like that.